Hi, I'm Joanne Banko, author, designer, and sewing educator. And today I'd like to share some tips and techniques for using an accessory foot called the cording foot. This cording foot has 3 slots, and it's called a 3-slot cording foot. It's designed for many different things, and we can use it for embellishing with decorative threads. Let's take a look at some of the threads that I have here. They're thinner thread than you may use for some other techniques, so check in your stash, see what you might have. Some things that you may be used for hand embroidery could be used with this foot for couching technique. Serger threads are good. You're going to see in a minute when I show how to put the thread actually in the foot, what you want to watch out for, because they do need to be smooth and they do need to fit inside the foot. Let's take a look at this foot and flip it over so that you can see the underside, because the bottom of the foot is as important as the top. The top of the foot has the slot, but the bottom of the foot actually has a channel or a groove underneath, and that groove widens out at the back so that when we're stitching with these cords, we can flow over the fabric smooth and easy, and we can twist and turn as we're going along. All right, we'll put that back and we'll talk about what do we use in the top. Well, ordinary sewing thread works fine. We may choose to use a more transparent thread, dark transparent or light transparent. Those threads tend to blend right in and not really show up. We could use ordinary sewing thread with a contrasting color. We could even use decorative thread, and that's what I have in the machine. So take a look at the cords that I have here ready. They're loose and they're free. I'm going to feed them into the foot, but I want to show you one more thing on the foot that I did before I start out. See that little knot that I've got at the back? That's just another little trick for you. When you start to sew with a cording foot, your threads might pull out, and if you knot them in the back, then they'll stay there. When you're all finished, you just snip that knot off and you're good to go. All right, let's move over to the machine. I'm going to take my cord and I'm going to feed it into the slots, and I'm going to feed it in one at a time. So watch how easy it is to just slip that underneath. If my cord slides underneath and slides back and forth once I have it in the slot, I know it's going to move fine and it's going to move freely when I stitch. Let's slip all 3 in, but we've got 3 slots. Doesn't mean we have to use all 3. We could use 1 in the middle. We could use the 2 on the sides. You're the designer. You pick and choose where you want those threads to go. That's 2, and we're ready for the 3rd one. Slip that right in. Let's talk about stitches while we're getting this in. What kind of stitch you might use with this? Well, an ordinary zigzag works perfectly fine, but check at your stitches that you have in your machine. It's very likely you have some great decorative stitches that will look beautiful over your cording. So I'm going to pick one here, and I like to choose a stitch that will sweep very far from side to side. I've got stitch number 23 selected, and I've also increased my width and increased my length a little bit. I'm going to do a test, and if you notice the fabric that I'm getting ready to stitch with here, I've got stabilizer underneath. I've got stabilizer on my table too, because very often we've got fabrics that are a little fine and a little soft, and we need to beef them up a little bit with stabilizer. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the stabilizer while I'm stitching. The stabilizer I like to use is either going to be a wash away or a tear away. I've got a little tail here on top. We'll smooth that out the bottom, but watch how easy it is for me to twirl and swirl that around. Let's take that out of the machine and see what that looks like. Wow, what a pretty stitch that is. That's how I decorated that pretty dress. I did a decorative stitch with 3 cords with the 3-slot cording foot all around the top of that beautiful band. That dress features a lot of different techniques, and that final little accent with the cord ties it all together and makes a really pretty project. If you visit the website, you'll find free tips, instructions, and downloads so that you can discover the fun of using your own cording foot.